Well, yeah, we're going to do a deep dive, or as I like to call it, the SMP Double D on Star Wars, the sequel trilogy.
It's just, you guys got 90 minutes.
90 minutes?
And I'm done.
Hour and a half? I could do it in an hour and a half.
30 an episode.
That's all we got. I can't do 3 hours on these movies.
You'll do 3 hours and like it.
No, I will not.
See, Matt, you have to do it for posterity. That way, instead of talking about them in the future, you can just point people to this podcast.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Next year, when we do May, we'll just repost all of these episodes.
And you're good.
I'll be honest with you guys.
We'll take a month off.
I'm a little burned out on Star Wars.
It hurts to do this much Star Wars.
Yeah,
huh?
I've done a lot of Star Wars this month.
This is what Christian Harloff was talking about when he's like, I worked my ass off for 5 years being a fan. Remember that little rant he had? Because he didn't get in. I
would have been upset too.
Galaxy Theaters.
No,
or Galaxy. What was it
Galaxy's
called?
Edge.
Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
You know, not Star Wars Land.
Yeah, not the Star Wars land that doesn't. Actually, it did look like StarArs Land, but it was just the location.
Where?
I don't know.
What part of Star Wars did it look like?
X-wings or the full-size Millennium
Where
Falcon?
though? Where was it
Star
at?
Wars?
Some planet we'd never been on before.
But two.
Okay.
I believe they refer to this as the Mandela effect.
It's like they could have put the Millennium Falcon and set it out on the strip and go, hey, look, we're at Canto Bite.
There you go.
That would have been a better.
Not a bad idea.
That's
that would
a
have been
great
a better idea.
Make it so.
Put the Falcon on the top of one of the
Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace or something. That'd be dope. I'd go to that.
You know what was weird about Canto Bite that I noticed in my rewatch?
This is ugly.
Well, it's
all the people there were ugly.
It's actually
They had every producer and producer's child and person that worked on the show and some makeup.
John Williams was bartender, I believe.
And Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is so like they say go to the casino on Canto Bite. I'm like,
Okay.
is there just one casino? And then like when you actually look at that opening shot where the yacht kind of goes off the waterfall and flies off into the distance, the entire planet's barren. There's only that one little mountain with the waterfall and that one little town with the casino in it. That's the only thing on that planet.
Kind of like Vegas.
Kind of like, yeah, sounds like Vegas.
All right, let's get into
It's
it.
their Lake Mead.
Let's start off with The Force Awakens. 2015, if I'm not mistaken, Disney had purchased the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas, and they had promised to make a brand new trilogy for us fans. And JJ got brought on to direct, and we had Lawrence Kasdan back as writing the script. And I, for one, as a super fan, was stoked. I could not wait. JJ was promising all these practical effects. We're going back to the classic Star Wars. We're going to pay homage to the original trilogy. Because at the time, and I know people don't like to say this, and people like to rewrite history, but at the time, most people didn't like the prequels. And there was a lot of hate towards those things. And everybody was looking forward to the time where we could put those behind us and get something a little bit more like the original trilogy. And that's what JJ was promising, and that's what we were looking forward to the most. And I remember when this thing came out, it was a huge, mega event. When this came out, I took literally my wife's entire family, grandparents, her parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, our kids. I brought my 1-year-old kid with us.
This was back when people thought J.J. Abrams was actually a good filmmaker.
I like his movies, Kadish. Stop poo-pooing what I like.
What movies of his did you like?
I can't think of a movie that he's done that I haven't liked except for maybe these Star Wars movies.
Really? You liked all the first two Star
Treks?
I
did like the Star Trek movies, yes.
Yeah, you liked Super 8?
I kind of did like that movie.
Mission Impossible 3?
I love Mission Impossible 3. Yeah. That was a great Mission Impossible. Philip Seymour Hoffman, that movie was awesome. Anyway, besides the point. I went multiple. I think I went 8 times to the theater, not with the whole family, but I went with the whole family once. We had a big event. I still have a picture on my bookshelf of our whole family at the theaters with the Star Wars poster behind us. Like it was a mega event, and I walked into that movie and I left and I was just on cloud 9. I was like, that was freaking awesome. You know,
really?
I did. I really did.
I'm in the same boat. Total same boat.
I fell in love with it. I was like, that was a fun movie. That was awesome. It felt like, that was an adventure Star Wars movie. All right. And of course, once the criticism came out and I kind of thought about it a little bit more critically, I was like, okay, it's kind of a rehash, right? It feels a lot like A New Hope. And I'm like, I was still in defense of the movie. I was like, I get it. Like he was a little nervous going into this. He didn't want to mess things up too much. He didn't want to be too risky. So he was like, I'll play it safe and I'll just do a rehash of A New Hope, but with new characters and a couple new plot lines. I was like, I get it. I'll let it slide. What was your first theatrical thoughts on The Force Awakens, Kadish?
So when the opening crawl happened, I was a little bit confused. The whole kind of setting of the, like, what's been happening since the end of Return of the Jedi didn't make a lot of sense to me, where I was like, okay, the First Order is basically the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
There's a resistance that's part of the New Republic that's fighting against the First Order for some reason.
They're resisting something, right?
Yeah. So like, upon reading that, I was a little bit confused, but once the movie started, I was like, I'm just going to turn off my brain and enjoy this. And so like, I walked out of the theater for the first time, having seen The Force Awakens, having enjoyed myself. It was fun popcorn, movie theater. That's why you go to the movie theaters to, see that stuff. And I had been super hyped going into the film, having seen all the trailers and bought into the excitement and stuff like that. And at the time I was still very much a fan of J.J. Abrams, and I believe that Disney had their stuff together and was, going to do right by Star Wars. And so like, I was naive. I had a lot of hope. And I will say that upon each and every subsequent viewing of this movie, more and more problems hop out at me. And I'm at the stage now where I watch this movie and I'm just like, I can't believe I ever thought this was an enjoyable film, because it's really poorly done. It's a really poorly done movie.
I still kind of like it.
I mean, if you completely shut off your brain, yeah, it's enjoyable. But if you are watching it as part of the larger saga and you're looking at, just the lazy storytelling techniques and the whole resetting it to basically what we had at the beginning of episode 4, it's insulting almost, like how badly conceived this story was. And when you consider what happens after this, the next 2 movies,
it's even worse.
I remember being upset when I left the theater the first time.
For The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what happened?
I was pissed off that I got 3 seconds of Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
Number 1. That was a troll. Absolute troll job on everybody. It was. There's no other word for it. They did Luke dirty in this series, man. They really did.
Oh, yeah. And the whole series, absolutely. The Force Awakens, I felt like it was one of those cliffhangers.
I was excited, just like we all were. But something felt off, just almost from the get-go with this movie. I don't know how to describe it, what it was. Maybe it was too video gamey, with the way the Falcon was flying around.
Yeah.
I didn't think the dialogue was quite there. I was really upset how they treated Han.
Really?
I knew that was probably coming at the time, but they turned him into a deadbeat deserter dad, and that wasn't the Han Solo I had in my head canon. The bigger Death Star that sucks the sun energy is like, and then for somehow the beam splits into 5 kills 4 or 5 different planets and stuff.
Travels light.
It was
years.
just like, it's like, I'm just going to take all this stuff that was in this one movie and just kind of make it bigger.
Yeah.
That's what JJ did.
Yeah.
He just kind of barfed all over Star Wars and made this stupid movie.
That's valid.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
So have you guys ever gotten the distinction between a reboot and a remake?
Probably, but go ahead. Tell us your thoughts.
Also,
while you're talking, give us your theatrical experience.
Okay. But so JJ did the Star Trek movies, and when Kadish and I first met, it was at a Star Trek convention, and one of the first things we talked about were like, at least the first one. I don't know if the second one was out at that time, because
I think it just come out.
Yeah, and we both agreed it's not Star Trek. Like they're good movies, but it's not Star Trek. So like, as you guys are talking about it, I'm thinking about my rewatching experience, except for the second one. I didn't rewatch the second one. If people who've never seen the original trilogy before watch this movie, I mean, to me, they got the right guy. They got J.J. Abrams, who does good reboots. This is A New Hope rebooted, is what it is essentially. And that's kind of the attitude that I had going into it. So perfect segue into, am I going to see this at the theater? So I went with a bunch of friends from a charity I used to be a part of called Critical Care Comics. And It was like, so me and the founder of that charity used to be like tight, and we went to we were super stoked, man. We like you guys were saying, like he was like, we were each other's buddies, just hyping each other up for the release of this movie. You know what I mean? Oh my God, did you see this? Oh no, man, yeah, but did you see this? You know, like just all about it. And so we went and we took it was like his wife, a few like there was a group of us. We had like a whole row, and I don't want to incriminate anybody, but you know, I'm going to say I was on edibles. So it was like a goddamn religious experience for me. It really was. I was able to I enjoyed that movie so much. You have no fucking idea. Sorry. I really did. I had an amazing experience seeing. I even bought the damn shirt. I meant to wear it today, but I came here straight from.
You literally
from
got the
meeting.
T-shirt.
I literally did. Like I've been there, done that. I literally got the damn shirt.
When I was at the theaters, they were offering these like collectible admit one movie tickets that were like encased in like this hard plastic. I bought one. I had like Kylo Ren and gold lettering and all this stuff.
Yeah,
I'm full.
Yeah, we were in the same damn boat. Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was all about it. So I left there. I was like, yeah, Cloud 9, man. I was like, fucking A, they didn't fuck it up. This is so good. You know, and I had this really spirited discussion with a good friend of mine, Brian Brunty. He's you know, he's got some cred as a nerd in Las Vegas. And you know, he was just like started bringing out he just dropped reality on me. It's like, well, if your dumbass wasn't on edibles, you'd have noticed X, Y, and Z. Instead, you just scarfed a bunch of popcorn and enjoyed all the visual effects for essentially the same damn movie, you know, you've already seen, you got to watch at home. So, you know, rewatch it and, you know, that's, but it'll never ruin the experience. I had a great time. I will say that. The experience of seeing the movie was way better than the next one.
I had a great experience at Phantom Menace. Still a terrible movie.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that, especially if it's something that you're like really, really excited for. I feel like your expectations kind of make you a little bit biased as to when you're watching the movie.
Until they're subverted.
Until they're subverted. Oh my God. We'll talk about. Don't spoil it yet. We still got a good 45 minutes on the Force Awakens. No, I'm kidding. I just gave Matt a heart attack. Okay, so what I wanted to do, since we all kind of already talked about the fact that this was basically just A New Hope rebooted, I think we can skip the idea about the plot. The plot's the same thing. We got these secret plans or secret map inside of a droid. We have to get the droid to the Resistance. The Resistance is then going to fight the Empire Light. So I think we can skip that. But I want to discuss the characters a little bit. And starting, of course, with Rey, who is our main protagonist in this movie. We don't get introduced to her quite yet. I think it's along the same lines, again, because of the New Hope. It's along the same lines as when we get introduced to Luke. Luke is just living his life. He's just doing his normal thing. He's farming moistures, buying droids, yada, yada. He's living with his aunt and uncle. We get introduced to Rey. And I have to say, even today, even watching it recently, like a couple days ago, in preparation for this podcast, I freaking love Rey's introduction. When she's like in front of this massive destroyed Star Destroyer, the music, her theme that John Williams came up with, like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, it's great.
I freaking love it, man. Yeah. It's beautiful. And I see, you see Rey climbing up and down all these scaffoldings and scavenging parts and whatnot.
You know, up until that point, the movie's really good. Well, we got introduced to Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
He was a badass Sith Force user, Darksider. You know, I'd never seen a Sith guy stop a laser bolt.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
That was dope.
That was.
I'm like, okay, we got something good going on here.
I'll show you the dark side.
And then I didn't mean to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, you're good. No, no, it's a good idea. I realize now that I should have
issues with Kylo Ren. Though. So many.
But at that point, did we? I just go,
exactly.
Oh.
He's just saying it, but by that point,
Yeah.
like, so just like
I should have started these character analysis from the moment we get introduced to them. So we get introduced to Poe. Let's reset. We'll talk about Poe. He's like this Resistance spy, like starfighter type dude, rogue agent, whatever. He's going.
Yeah,
he's trying to find a
he
loot.
used to be a spice smuggler.
Yeah, that's his new.
But we don't find that out until like 3 movies later.
Don't worry about it.
Apparently, he has a backstory.
So basically the whole idea about this movie and what kind of sets it forth is they're looking for Luke Skywalker, right? Luke is missing. We don't know where Luke is. Like that's
in the
driving
crawl.
force. That's the opening crawl. Where is Luke? And then we get to see Poe. He's like he found this clue, right? Oh, I found a map to Luke Skywalker.
Well, Luke left a map behind in case he ever needed to be found.
In the opening crawl, it says they found a clue on this planet to the location of Luke Skywalker, and then Laura Santeca I can't remember. Is that his character name?
Yeah.
His character, Lauren Senteca, is played by, what's the actor's name?
Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow. Rest in peace, buddy. What did he say about the map? Did he say he found it, or did he say that it was left with him? Because I can't remember.
Does it matter?
Kinda.
I think it was left with him. I think it was. And if I'm wrong, lots of angry nerds will let me
He
know,
has
but-
this key plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Luke left him a key to the place where he went to that he never wanted to be found from.
Right.
So, that makes a lot of sense right there, right?
Yeah.
The most unfindable place in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, they left him. God, these movies fall apart when you start thinking about them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you get introduced to Poe, and I thought Poe was really cool, and the whole scene where the ships come down and they're, the new stormtroopers come out.
Great.
I was like, oh, freaking, that's cool. Yeah, I dig it. I was invested. And we get Poe. He's got the full size, real, practical effect X-wing fighter. Like, I was stoked about that. I actually really liked BB-8 too. I thought he was pretty cool.
I could watch the first 15 minutes of this movie over and over again.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. And
it's
it
really
moves,
good.
man. I gotta say, this movie is quick.
Yeah.
Like, it starts off with a bang and it does not stop for a minute. And that's part of the downfall too, is I felt like the characters didn't have time to breathe. They never had a chance to like sit down and talk.
In the moment, though, like, 'cause
Yeah.
it was, I don't know.
But anyway,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But you think about the first 15 minutes. You get introduced to Poe. You go, he's a cool rogue Han Solo type character. You get introduced to Finn. He's the stormtrooper with the morals
gold, yeah.
and the issues. You got Rey, introduced to Rey. You got BB-8, the droid with the attitude and the heart. And it's a great start to all these new characters.
Yep.
So,
and like you said, Kylo using that force to stop that the
Yeah.
laser bolt, like that was a shocking moment.
even Phasma was cool in the first 10 minutes of this show.
She was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They just kind of shit all over her.
Oh, man.
Everybody got done dirty.
Got to sell those action figures, man.
That's totally, I can agree with that. Okay, so and then eventually, like, we all kind of agree that Kylo was pretty badass in that first. You said you didn't like him at first either, even in that opening scene.
Oh no, I liked him at first.
Okay.
As the movie went on, though, I just had so many questions. Like, so we established that Kylo has the power to basically freeze stuff,
Yeah.
like lasers and people.
Yeah.
Like, there's that scene where he like freezes Rey so
Yep.
she can't move. Where was that in the next two movies?
They forgot about
That
it.
might have come in handy occasionally. Like if he wanted to capture Rey, just like, freeze her and like pick her up and put her on a ship. They just kind of forget about that force power.
No, but he was in love with her, and he didn't want to like Anakin Padme her. You know what I mean? He was trying to respect that level of the. I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
Just trying to come up with
There's also the whole mind raping thing.
that was an intense part of this movie that I
Yeah.
thought was really cool. Like, these are good inclusions. Like, I like new force powers, and I know a lot of people have issues with them kind of introducing new force powers if they're not fleshed out and if they're not justified. But
Well, the whole thing is they introduce force powers as a plot device as opposed to actually having it be like a sensible part of the lore. Like when we start talking about the third movie, the force powers they introduce in that movie are just game-breaking insane.
oh, it's a video game.
I mean, no, it literally like breaks so much of the lore
Yeah.
where you're like, how come like the old Republic Jedis weren't doing this stuff all the time?
Don't worry about
it.
The what?
The old Republic Jedis.
The what?
Anyway.
The ones in the prequels.
Not canon.
All right, how do you guys want to break this movie up? Kadish, what are you? You're better at this nonsense than I am. How do you want to break this up? Do you want to talk about characters? I kind of feel like we should talk about that.
I want to talk about certain things that just stood out to me as being bad.
Okay. Go ahead. You know what? Let's do that because I might still be able to defend this movie. So go ahead.
Don't you dare.
I'm going to. I'm not going to.
I won't be able to help myself. I'm sorry.
Me and Danny will defend it. You guys will shit on it. Go ahead.
Idiots.
Go ahead, Kadish.
Well, the first thing is, so Kylo goes to Jakku in order to find this map that will lead him to Luke Skywalker. And he finds the guy who had the map. And the first thing he does is kill him. Now, wouldn't you think that he might like freeze him and then use his mind raping force powers right there to kind of figure out what he did with the map? Or you have to know that later on in the movie, Rey's seen the map, so he's hoping to get a view of that. But didn't that guy see the map? The one at the beginning, Max von Sydow?
Maybe he just had the flash drive in his pocket.
Yeah, he just had the flash drive.
So like he never looked at what was actually on it.
The flash drive.
No, well, he doesn't have a droid that has a like BB-8 or R2D2 around him. So it stands to reason that he just had this thing. He just never looked
Where'd he
at
get it from?
Luke left it
Luke
with him.
left
gave
it
it
with
to
him.
him.
Oh,
He had to have left it behind, and or
Come on, man.
Because so the map itself is just a missing piece.
But at the very least, so like the guy knows who he gave the map to. So couldn't Kylo have figured out, okay, who has the map and where'd he go, and then kill him? Like why does Kylo need to bring them up to the Star Destroyer in order to interrogate them?
I don't know.
No, he's making and you just blew my fucking mind, dude. I never thought it, like, you're think about it. He's right. I mean,
Well, of course he's right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
of course he's right.
Because it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah.
Well, did he know? He didn't know that Poe was there at that point. It happened like after this. So he kills Max Van Sydow, and then Poe shoots at him.
Why kill this guy? Because they obviously have a history together.
Yeah.
Like they made it clear that
He knew who he was.
Because he was maybe they were trying to build like character, like, like when he throws his temper tantrums and stuff like that. He's not very smart. You know what I mean? He's more reactionary. You know?
but having a character be stupid is not a good like plot device. It's
Fair enough.
But you get the sense that this Max von Sydow character had some type of connection to the New Jedi School. He knew Ben Solo before he became Kylo Ren. He knew Luke Skywalker. Yeah. So there was history there.
It seemed to be some kind of insinuation of a previous relationship.
Yes.
So maybe we didn't get this in a backstory. Maybe it's in a comic. Maybe he had a reason to want to kill him. You know what I mean?
But
I think he was just flexing.
Like when it came to Vader, Vader was always so cold and calculated. Like everything he did was smart, and it always had a purpose to it.
Well, and he's trying to be Vader, so it makes sense. He wouldn't be as good as Vader. Like, he'd stumble along the way.
I chalk this up to lazy writing.
Fair enough.
Young and inexperienced.
That's another thing that I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
So like we have the scene where Kylo Ren is communing with Darth Vader's mask, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, I feel the pull of the light, help keep me focused. You know, I want to finish what you started. Where's Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost?
It's not. It's Palpatine.
No, I said, where's Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost? Why didn't Anakin Skywalker show up at some point to Kylo and be like, hey, kid, don't make the same mistakes I did. Stay with the light. Because we've got Force Ghosts showing up everywhere throughout these new movies to help guide the Jedi. What was Anakin doing in the afterlife that he couldn't spend some time to save his own grandson's soul?
You go to the dark side, the Force Ghost thing goes out the window.
Yeah, I think it's just a thing of the light.
At the end of Return of the Jedi, Anakin Skywalker was a Force Ghost.
Yeah.
In his Jedi robes.
No.
But they were being seen by Luke, who's a Jedi. Yeah.
I'm saying once a person goes to the dark side, like Kylo Ren turned to the dark side, Ben Solo turned to the dark side, became Kylo Ren, you no longer have the ability to commune with that.
You lose that access.
Which is the same thing.
Before he turned to the dark side, he was training to be a Jedi. And he hadn't turned to the dark side.
No, he had Luke there to talk to him.
He had Luke there, but he obviously wasn't listening to Luke.
Okay.
So, where was Anakin?
Well, now you're rewriting the whole movie.
The ghosts only show up.
I'm asking a very simple question. When Kylo Ren was studying to be a Jedi, and he was gaining his power in the Force, and he was feeling the call of the dark side, where was Anakin Skywalker? Where he could have shown up to his
because then we
grandson.
would not have a movie.
No. But was he?
Exactly.
Was he feeling?
Why would you want to do that if you're gonna make a movie about something and you're like, well, technically, if you did something before the movie starts, then we wouldn't have a movie. So let's do that.
But you have to address it.
No. Well, I still have an argument for this.
Go ahead, Danny.
This is what's called good writing. Okay.
Fair enough.
I think you're stretching, man. Go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
No, as a writer, let me tell you something. I will let Danny speak in a second. As a writer,
what podcast is this? Let Danny talk. He's got a thought.
I haven't finished my thought.
Go ahead. All right, fine. You win. Go ahead.
As a writer, these are things
Point your finger somewhere else first.
These are things that you need to think through before you set pen to paper, because otherwise your entire story falls apart.
Okay, well, by that rationale, why didn't Qui-Gon's Force Ghost come to Anakin and be like, hey, Anakin, why don't you not turn to the dark side?
I can settle this.
Because then the prequels wouldn't happen.
No, this is why. Okay. Because in that example there was a Padawan and a master. All right. And so with Luke and Ben, you've got a Padawan and a master. Okay. With Luke and Yoda or Luke and Obi-Wan, there's no master. So they need the first of all, you only have access to these Force Ghosts if you're on the light side of the Force, and then you only really need access to them if you're masterless. and you call upon them, just like Rey does in the last movie.
Where is that
she's
established?
calling upon.
It's.
I don't know.
he's
How do
describing
I
it to you
know
right
this?
now.
It's the Force, man. I just like it's a feeling I have. I don't know. Maybe
that's the issue here. Is like there is no clear rules as to how this.
Well,
is
how much
supposed to work.
exposition do you need to explain all these rules to people? Like,
You need a basic line of dialogue. You need someone to say like, "Hey, this is how Force ghosts work."
he's just described to you. We had 3 movies about how Force ghosts
he's
work.
not in the movies.
no, but like
I've
if
always-
just
I've
by
always
looking
felt
at
that-
how it's worked.
I've always felt that
This is going to be a fun podcast.
this is why I hate talking about this shit. I've always been under the impression that lightsiders can talk to Force ghosts if the people that are the Force ghosts knew how to do it when they passed.
Yeah, well, Anakin, they have established that Anakin
Yes.
knew how to.
Well,
Darksiders don't have that ability.
Which, to be completely honest with you, makes absolutely no goddamn sense.
Also, they established that the Jedi didn't know how to do this in the
Correct.
prequels. Like,
Right,
It wasn't
because
until,
that's why
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon
made contact with Yoda.
Exactly. But how does Darth Vader know how to do it? He was never taught it, and he died as Darth Vader.
Right.
Well, he died as Anakin.
He died as Anakin. I'm sorry. He died as Anakin, but he was Darth Vader for the majority of his life. And then he just was like, yeah, you're good now?
And you also have this issue where like Kylo Ren becomes one with the Force when he dies. And it's like, how did he learn how to do that?
we never saw a Force ghost Kylo Ren, though.
Yeah, we
No,
didn't. And
no, we
that
didn't.
to me that was a huge missed thing. Like that was one.
You
of
would have
my,
wanted to see that?
I did. I wanted to.
But-
I mean, at that point, I didn't
But
care.
when the body disappears and it becomes one with the Force, it's assumed that they ascend to that Force ghost status.
Exactly.
yeah.
But you know that's something that you have to be super powerful in the Force to
Well,
achieve.
it's never seen that Vader's body disappeared.
Well, that's because he's inside. He's encased in
He
his.
got cremated.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got
Well, so did Qui-Gon Jinn, but Qui-Gon Jinn did not disappear and become one with the Force
Until after. He
corporally. Anyway, did he? Did they retcon this in the series?
so
I haven't
This
watched.
is not established in any of the movies. This is like Clone Wars and like comic book and novel stuff.
Okay.
Qui-Gon learned how to do it post-death, basically. He became one with the Force, and then once he was one with the Force, he was able to kind of like bring his human form back to become a Force ghost.
Well, if you want me to believe that, they should put his ass in this last movie because that would have been nice.
he talked for like
He
3
did. No,
minutes.
so did Ahsoka. So she's dead.
Yeah, Ahsoka's dead in Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, The Force Awakens.
Yeah, sorry.
So my argument against you, sir, is simply that like if you set up all this stuff, then you would just simply not have a movie going forward.
Well, if you don't have a movie going forward with this stuff set up, you need to come up with a new movie. Because this is, I mean, as a writer, this is your fundamental building block of what your story is going to be. If you can't answer these questions, or if the answer to these questions like invalidates your movie, then you need to change your movie to make sure that it fits within what's come before it.
It quite simply could have just been that he had Luke as a master, and the failure of Luke is what caused him to turn. And by the time he turned, it was too late.
They also established in that movie. This is the thought I lost earlier when I was going to thank you. Was he wasn't Luke was seeing the future or some shit. He was having visions. Ben wasn't doing anything wrong when, totally out of character, Luke Skywalker is going to kill his nephew in his sleep. So like in Ben's, they had no inclination of that. It was like some unrealistic action.
Basically
they
what
had Luke
happened
Skywalker
was-
take in The Last Jedi, which makes no fucking sense. So sorry.
Is the person who wrote this movie doesn't know the first thing about Star Wars.
Or writing.
Or right.
I think to his point is writing.
You guys can try to headcanon your way out of this all you want. But the fact of the matter is that the honest answer to this question is that the people who wrote this movie didn't actually think about it too hard.
I'm on your side, man.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with that because there's no if this was supposed to be a trilogy with a beginning, a middle, and an end, they clearly none of these
Yeah,
Well,
these 3 movies
it
are so
wasn't-
disjointed.
yeah. There you go. Thank
Well,
you.
okay, so my argument then would be: are we all in agreement that the EU the extended universe was pretty badass back in the day?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Way better.
So the same freaking thing happened.
Well,
Leia and Han's kids turned to the dark side. Then the same thing can be said. Like, where was all their family members and Force
Yeah, but
ghosts?
you
telling them not to do
it's
that.
a big part of
in the
Luke
Thrawn
being.
trilogy. Yeah, in the Thrawn trilogy, they established that Obi-Wan Kenobi was
Talks to Luke.
Well, he talks
Often.
to Luke, but no, he at the very first Thrawn book, Obi-Wan came to him in a vision and said,
I
I'm
can't
leaving.
stay like this
yeah,
forever.
I can't stay
right?
like you. I'm leaving. This will be the last time you see me. And so
Oh,
they
I do
basically
remember that, yeah.
they basically solved that Force ghost issue by just saying like, okay, this was a temporary thing that Obi-Wan was able to do with Luke, and now he's on his own. But the movies haven't done that. In fact, they've doubled down on it.
Yeah. they've let him be able to interact with the physical space around them too.
I have an argument against that.
And you know, if they had just had someone say that, you know, Force ghosts can only appear to people that they had a personal relationship with at some point,
Which I think is implied.
it's never stated. So like you can't justify it. But like if they just had like a line of dialogue in these movies to just kind of set the ground rules for some of this Force stuff, these wouldn't be issues, but they are.
It could have been a throwaway. He just happens to be reading the page in the book that talks about ghosts.
That's a big plot convenience, those friggin' books. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, right.
Because that's what people use to defend the other two movies.
Another issue
goddamn book.
another issue that I want to bring up is how Kylo Ren uses the Force to basically like punish people that just displease him.
He hurts them with the Force.
Yeah, but
Well, Vader did that.
Yeah.
but here's my point. So if you look at how Vader used the Force to punish people, he was very meticulous in how he did. Well,
Try not to choke on your aspirations.
he wouldn't use the Force against people who displeased him. He would use the Force against people who either failed, like grossly incompetently,
Or annoyed him.
or you know, basically were so stupid that they didn't deserve to live.
He choked his coworker out in a conference meeting because he said something annoying.
No, this is true.
It's the same thing.
Well, he was insulting his power.
Yeah.
And he just kind of gave him like a little bit of a choke.
Yeah, he was just going, that's true.
Yeah.
It's like, you talk shit about my Force, and
Yeah.
this is what the Force can do.
This is what the Force can do. So like he was proving a point.
Hold on. The exact line is, the ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to me choking you to death.
Next to the power of the Force.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Here's a little taste.
We've never seen
Here's
the
a
Force do
taste.
anything on the scale of destroying a planet. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Well, we saw it take down an entire fleet. In the Rise of Skywalker,
Yeah.
with
lightning.
a giant fart noise.
but so like Vader, like he killed the admiral.
We're getting so into the weeds. Go ahead.
When he came out of hyperspace too early and alerted, so like he never punished people that didn't deserve it, is what I'm saying. If you look at how Kylo Ren does this, he literally throws a tantrum, and like there was a scene in Rise of Skywalker when one of the guys is like, why should we be trusting the Emperor? Like, what's he want from us? And then Kylo throws him against the ceiling with the Force for asking a perfectly reasonable question.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
But he does this throughout like the entire trilogy.
He's no Vader. I think it just kind of proves my point where he's no Vader.
He's trying so
hard.
He's trying so hard.
But here's the thing: if you want to set up a credible villain for your story, why make him look like a petulant child?
That's
it.
That's what he looks like. in all of them.
Jeremy Johns did a fantastic video on this very subject. He's like, why the First Order is not nearly as scary as the Empire. Like, the Empire was cold, calculated, like you said.
They were smart.
They were intelligent. And then when you look at the First Order, they just throw tantrums and scream and yell. You got Hux screaming and yelling.
So,
you got all the whole
My takeaway from the crawl, maybe I'm totally wrong, and I don't know, but so you've got the New Republic, which is basically like from the original trilogy, the rebellion overthrew the Empire and became the New Republic. And then you've got the First Order, which is the remnants of the Empire who make this First Order, which is First Order Light.
They're not the remnants of the Empire.
They're not?
Are they?
What are they?
They are.
They were something completely new, weren't they?
No, they were remnants of the Empire.
Remnants of the
Some of
Empire.
them talk about their previous post and shit like
We'll
that.
find out in The Mandalorian season 7.
Right.
No, it's established. It is the remnants of the Empire that were still loyalists.
Where was
Yeah.
that established, though?
It's in
I think it's
the first movie.
Yeah.
It's in Force Awakens.
It's in the book, man.
It's in the book.
Nowhere in The Force Awakens do they say that.
It's in the opening crawl, I'm pretty sure. Remnants of the Empire, now called the First Order.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Look it up real
You
quick.
guys
Look
go
up the opening crawl to Force Awakens. Anyway, all right. So we talked about Kylo and
I'm
how
going to look up the opening crawl to Return of the Jedi, you donkey.
okay, so Kylo Ren, you're displeased with the just the basic setup of his character.
I don't feel like they made him a credible enough villain.
Okay.
I also don't like how, new powerful Force powers are introduced throughout this trilogy, and like it's just like Deus Ex Force.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not the whole thing, but just the
This time of uncertainty, unrest grips the galaxy as the influence of the First Order spreads. Luke and the Jedi he was training have vanished. Glenn Morphope remains in heroic forces of the Resistance. General Leia Organa has dispatched an agent to recover a relic that may lead them to her missing brother.
so it's nothing in there.
The evil Kylo Ren, obsessed with the Skywalker lineage, has secretly...
At this point, we didn't even know who he was. So they were trying not to give it away. Wow, there's nothing in there about that?
See,
It's
I told you.
just supposed to be like
No, I remember.
assumed?
Maybe yes.
See, like from what I could tell,
Because they have stormtroopers, they got TIE fighters. You would just assume that they're just remnants of the Empire.
I swear, like I remember somebody having this conversation though.
The only thing that gives you that connection is that General Pride in the Rise of Skywalker tells Palpatine that he will serve him now as he did, then.
Oh well, there you go.
But that was towards the end of the third movie.
It's beginning, middle.
So like plus the whole thing about Leia running the Resistance. It makes
Okay, so the
like
I understand.
This is a plot point that
the
really
Resistance inside the Force Awakens has no reason to exist other than to be rebellion light. Of course, they explain it after the movie comes out in a book or somewhere or something like that, where they said that the Republic was kind of in denial that the Empire had kind of had a resurgence. They didn't think it was true, but Leia was like one of the only people who were like, no, guys, this is a credible thing. We need to address it.
Oh, and is that why they don't have as much help?
Exactly. So she was like, just give me a few ships, give me a few people, and I'll go and take care of it myself, is basically the setup. But again, this is not in any of the movies. This is like novels and comic books and stuff.
But the whole thing about they fight this civil war to achieve independence as a new republic.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fight to get rid of the last remnants of the Empire. And that had to take at least 10 years, maybe, give or take. So
Battle of Jakku?
So you have the situation where you have a new galactic government that is willfully ignoring a growing threat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a threat because the First Order was around long enough to build Starkiller Base. They were around long enough to steal children to raise as an army. So they had to have been operating in a fashion that people knew they existed.
Go ahead. Our Googler.
So, I just went to YouTube watching it. Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire.
There it is.
Okay.
And will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed.
There it is. Okay. So it is established in the opening crawl.
Okay.
Cool. Matter settled.
With the support of the Republic, General Leia leads a brave resistance.
Yeah. Okay.
Against what?
Empire Light.
But the whole point I'm making is like this whole setup for the new era of Star Wars makes no sense. Like it could have been way better established.
Everything could be better. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree that it could be better.
Just from
I'm just
a
saying,
structural writing standpoint, it could have been way better established.
I think we nitpick these modern movies so much because there's such an established.
These aren't nitpicks. These go to the core fundamental structure of the entire trilogy.
Couldn't you say the same thing about A New Hope?
No. You yourself, sir, said that when you left the theater for the first time, you had an enjoyable experience.
Because I didn't think about it too much.
Is that not all that matters?
No. I want to continue to have this enjoyable experience.
I'm giving you the that Hollywood producer point of view. You know what I mean?
It's like if you look at Episode 4, it's very simple. There's an evil empire. There's a resistance.
Where's the
evil
empire
war.
come from?
Remnants of the Empire.
It does. See, that's the thing. There it is.
But there was nothing that came before.
That's just bad writing.
No, that's not bad writing. There was nothing that came before New Hope to contradict it. Okay,
so
it was establishing the world that we were entering into.
But we just established it. They said in the opening crawl that the remnants of the Empire.
We had 6 movies to establish this stuff, and they reset the future of this franchise to what we had
one, so that they could do a New Hope reboot.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why they hired J.J. Abrams. Point is that this is the core reason why the sequel trilogy fails. Is because the whole world building aspect of it was borked to begin with.
Okay. We're in a rut.
He's absolutely true.
We're in a rut, and I can't completely disagree with you. You do have a point. You do have a valid point. If I was better at arguing, I would continue on. But if
your argument actually had water to it.
Oh, there's plenty. I mean, come on.
That was dirty. That was dirty.
If your argument was actually correct, you'd have a better time.
J.J. Abrams, if you look at the movie, J.J. Abrams' job was to basically reintroduce
a new generation to Star Wars.
Here's what J.J. Abrams' job was. I can't talk. I'm slurring like I'm doing. J.J. Abrams' job was to put out a movie to sell a lot of tickets because Disney just bought Star Wars and they had to put something on the movie screen.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
And you know what's the most telling about JJ's take on this? Is he said in an interview that originally in the script, Luke Skywalker had a much bigger part in their initial drafts. And they found that every time that they went through a read through of their scripts, he took away attention from the new characters. And that's because everyone loves Luke Skywalker. He's one of the greatest characters in all of cinema. And so like they kept scaling back his part so that they could put more focus on the new characters. And that was the core issue where I point to as this is why JJ's a bad writer, is because he should have known that, you know, if Luke Skywalker is taking away the steam of the new characters, number one, the new characters aren't very well established. And number two, you have to start with Luke Skywalker and have him pass the torch to the new characters to make them to make the audience care about it.
What they should have
There's
done.
no training. You know, there should the movie.
What they should have done was made Force Awakens the original characters' story.
Yes.
Reintroduce them, give them their moments, give them their scenes together.
And
Second movie should have passed the torch. Maybe one of them die, Han Solo or something. Third movie, all about the new guys. And then we can get a second Disney trilogy that's all about the Leia or Rey and Poe and Finn.
The fact that they were afraid to put Luke Skywalker on scene because he would have taken all the attention off that's the biggest mistake they could have made. Is just give him half of the first movie and pass the torch, either at the end of the first movie, pass the torch, or middle of the second one, pass the torch. Like there's a couple of points where you could have done it. Just like Obi-Wan Kenobi was in the majority of A New Hope. He didn't die off until almost maybe halfway through, more than halfway through the first movie. Obi-Wan basically passes on the torch to Luke, and Luke goes
2/3 into the movie.
Yeah. The same thing should have happened.
All the legacy characters got done bad. Like 3PO and R2.
Oh, in this first movie, that's awful.
You know, like I would have liked to have seen 3PO and R2 kind of carry on their role as like the lowest characters.
That's who the story was told by.
Through their eyes. But R2 was completely absent through most of this trilogy. 3PO kind of came back in the Rise of Skywalker, and every time he was on screen in Rise of Skywalker, I was loving it because it felt like Star Wars again with
3PO.
You might not recognize me because of my red arm.
Yeah, they never explained why he got his red arm.
It's in a comic book.
Well, it's in the comic book.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, for real, I have it at home.
I believe you. What I'm saying is like
terrible.
it should have been in the movie.
Classic Disney.
Another big thing is how like they start these story threads that they say are going to pay off later, and they never do. Like Maz Kanata saying, like, "Where'd you get Luke's lightsaber from?"
Oh, we didn't even get to Maz Kanata yet, man.
That's a story for another time.
We've literally only
and
gone over
that time
Kylo
never
Ren.
comes.
Real quick, let's talk about. Okay, so we talked about Rey a little bit. We talked about how she got introduced. We'll kind of
biggest
mention her.
Mary Sue in cinema history.
I disagree.
I don't.
Give me your arguments.
They should have had Luke Skywalker training her. There should have been
In the
that
first episode?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it should have been Luke that she hooked up with instead of
Tell me
Han.
Mary Sue moments.
Exactly.
I'll see if I can defend him. Go ahead. We're just trying to make this interesting.
Please don't.
We're just trying to make this interesting,
Please
man.
don't.
It'll be a big circle jerk if we're all just shitting on it all the time.
How does she know how to fly the Falcon?
Okay,
if
so
never
she's
flown a
lived on
ship
this
before?
planet her entire life. She describes her relationship with Unkar Plot, where he has these broken down ships, and she's a pilot. She's self-proclaimed, I am a pilot. I've flown before. She knows.
No, she said she's never flown before.
Yeah.
No, never off planet. She's flown, just never off planet. That's the line.
She literally said, "I've never flown before."
No, she does not, sir. She says to Finn, I've flown before, just never off planet. That's the line. Stop trying to undermine me and say that I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure.
Go watch the movie again then. And she
I
says,
just
I've
watched
flown
it.
before, just not off planet. That's what she says. Anyway, so she describes the fact that she knows that the Falcon has not flown in years, which implies that she has seen it fly once or twice before. It's also implied that she knows what upgrades that has been given, which also says she's probably the one who either was there installing them, or she
stole
knew,
the parts,
or stole the parts,
Yeah.
or she was involved in the creation of this new Falcon.
Man, you got way out of that than I did.
All right.
It's all in the movie.
right,
It's
I'll-
lines of dialogue.
Okay,
no,
I'll concede this point to you.
Wow.
No,
Holy shit.
no.
What time is it? This is 4:56 on May
I'll
21st.
I'll
in the year
concede
of our
this
Lord
one to you.
2020.
Just because you're so passionate about it. But
I'm drunk. I'm drunk. I'm sorry.
But tell me this, okay?
Yeah.
How does she know how to do the Jedi mind trick?
Okay, so she fails 3 times, right?
Well, first of all, she didn't believe the Force was real.
Exactly, yes.
Second of all, no one ever told her about the Jedi mind trick. She didn't know about it.
Right,
Third of all, she'd never used the Force before.
right.
So how does she know how to do it?
Okay, so before this happens, she gets mind raped by Kylo Ren in the interrogation process, which kind of gives her and she fought back against it.
Two-way tunnel.
It's
thing.
a two-way tunnel.
Yeah.
So she learned, I don't want to say learned, but she kind of got the idea that this was
absorbed it.
possible from Kylo Ren. The official, okay, I don't agree with this official narrative that they actually explain this, but what Disney has said is that she basically downloaded her abilities from Kylo once they had that mind meld. And later on in JJ's trilogy,
It would have been nice if they established that in the movie.
exactly. But later on in JJ's trilogy, it's established that they are a Force dyad, so they're very, very heavily connected. Her and
Nice
Kylo.
little retcon.
Yes, very much so a retcon. However, it's a trilogy, so it has to be taken into account. So these two characters are very much connected. So when they first come in contact with each other and they have that Force connection where he's probing her mind, she starts getting all these abilities, these flashes, this idea.
So they're like
of how she
twin
can-
flames. That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
romantic.
that's exactly what they have a
sweet.
virgin.
Exactly what it is. Yes. So
virgins
the
in the
Force
Force.
awakens inside of her, and
Yeah.
she becomes a part of this Force dyad, which is the reason why she's so freaking overpowered.
And the name of the movie.
The Force Awakens, exactly.
There you go.
So that's the explanation for that. It's a weak explanation. I'll give you that. However, it is kind of explained, in a way.
How does she know how to fix the Falcon better than Han Solo? and Chewbacca?
So Han Solo hadn't seen the Falcon in years, right? Unkar Platt has had his way with it. He's done all these.
It hasn't changed in years, though.
Yes, it has, because
No, it
it's
hasn't.
explained.
No, it had the new. It
It had the new compressor. It had the new ignition
which
thing,
she knew about.
Which
so
she knew
like,
about
yeah.
because she was
like he said
probably-
earlier. She probably sold the parts.
So the
to
reason why she knew how to fix that specific issue with the hyperdrive was because she was most likely the one who installed it. Han Solo didn't know what it was. Like, they
Where
put this
was it ever
ignition coil thing?
established that she was a mechanic on anything? She was a junker.
Well,
She went out to the things, lived in her little gutted out
Again, these are all just little bits of dialogue.
and survived on breadcrumbs that she got from bringing the junk into Unkar
Yeah,
Platt.
also,
the only thing she did.
in the movie, Han Solo specifically talks about how the compressor puts too much strain on the hyperdrive. So he knew what the issue was.
But
She knew how to fix it better than he did.
all she did was disconnect it, and she knew where it was. Like, the compressor that we installed is right here. Let's just disconnect it.
He identified the problem. She knew what it was, and she took care of it.
Yeah, that's all it was. So this idea that like she can fix the Falcon better, that doesn't make any
She
sense.
can fly the Falcon better. She can fix the Falcon better.
I didn't know about this download
she can use
explanation.
the Force better.
so-
She can fly the Falcon better. I'll say that the movie, because JJ is JJ, and that's the type of movie that he does, is very, very action oriented movies. The whole flight with the Falcon through the destroyed Death Star, that's very, very video game like cutscene. It's over the top. We've never seen the Falcon do anything like that before.
See, the thing to me,
the closest thing that we've seen is Han Solo going through an asteroid field.
well, are we including Solo, a Star Wars story?
I suppose so.
Well, I mean, there's a pretty dope ass Millennium Falcon scene in that movie.
So the argument that she can fly the Falcon better than Han Solo, I don't think that holds water.
the thing that's clear to me is that J.J. Abrams needed these characters to do stuff, and he didn't have the time or the inclination to properly set it up. So he just had them do it, and then he tries to explain it away by, it's the Force.
The Force changes.
There's also there's also this.
just
Thank you,
in.
Jude. I'm going to give credit to Jude over here because she's doing research in the back. But Jude just brought it up to me. It's established when Rey goes back to her homestead, the destroyed AT-AT. She has the helmet from the Y-wing pilot.
Yep.
It can be established, or it can be kind of like. It can be said that she has experience, and I think officially she downloaded some computer program from an old Y-wing that helped her fly.
And that-
all I know
Where was
is
this
somebody
in the
who's
movie?
Again, yes.
Where was it in the movie?
okay.
It's not.
So if you're going to take
she
something
is
apart, you kind of need to know how to put it back
so-
together. I think, like, for me, I don't. I feel like we're spending way too much time on this
We are.
because for me, I feel like it's not unreasonable to assume that she knows how to install this shit if she knows how to take it apart.
It's also
You know.
it's also not unreasonable to assume that if we listen to what Luke says, I flew through Beggar's Canyon. He flies his little model. It's never said in the movie what model flight simulator he's using, but he's using that little Y-wing type thing through Beggar's Canyon.
He actually flew what was it? T whatever.
TY something, whatever it is. Yeah, it's never said in the movie, but it's established.
No, it's said.
because he's playing with the model.
It is
It's
said in the
clearly
movie.
said.
That's in a
the movie.
deleted scene.
No,
That
it's
big
not.
Yeah.
No, he says at the end of it, and when they're getting ready to assault the Death Star, he's like, I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-13 at home.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Ray saying like, "Oh, I'm a pilot. I can fly this thing." How is that any different? Oh, Luke is saying, "Hey, I used to fly Beggar's Canyon back home. I can take on the Death Star." As Ray saying, "I am a pilot. I know how to fly this thing."
Ray never says that though.
Dude, they're running through the sand.
I don't remember her saying
She
that
says,
either.
"I'm a pilot.
I'll bet you $20.
We need a pilot. We have one. Me." How is that any different?
Well, I'll give you that. But
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah,
What else are we going to talk about? Han Solo.
I hated what they did with Han Solo.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
let's talk about
Yeah,
this.
let's
We're
talk
an
about
hour
this.
in and we're
It is.
quarter of the way through the
Wow,
first
it has
fucking
been an
movie.
hour in. I got to take a leak, guys.
Go ahead. Take a break. Do you guys want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
take a break.
I love you, Kadish. I love you.
Let the hate flow through you.
You guys realize how funny we are. If you go back and take notes, we were going to talk about characters. We literally.
Oh, we just went way off the rails.
Kylo Ren.
Okay.
There are two things I want to talk about.
Okay, perfect. Because I actually want to talk about Han Solo. Because I might, depending on your argument, I might be able to argue against it. So go ahead.
Well, the first is I hate that basically we have this full character arc of Han Solo in the original trilogy, and it's completely reverted in this movie. He reverts back to the scoundrel he was. He becomes a deadbeat dad. He becomes a divorcee, and he's back to his old ways. And I feel that just cheapens the journey that he had in the original trilogy. And I feel like, just like they messed up Luke, they messed up Han. Okay. And the only character that they actually had progress and stay progressed was Leia. Okay. And I feel like they just did Han dirty in this movie.
Okay. So to your point, I will disagree. Seeing Han and Leia get together in Empire Strikes Back is a wonderful moment, and it will never be able to be cheapened to me. Han Solo's character, his personality character of that scoundrel, of that loner, of the guy who wants to go off and do his own thing. It's all right. I think still exists. I think that tie that he has with Leia is still there in The Force Awakens. They describe it. However, they go through a tragedy where they lose their son. And to any couple that goes through something that terrible, there's a troubled time. And I think Han Solo, like he said in the movie, he went back to what he knew best, because they had this trauma. They had this moment where they lost their son, and they were always kind of like this headbutting couple. That's established in Empire Strikes Back, and it's even established in the Return of the Jedi, where they're even fighting on Endor. I mean, they love each other and they're together. But they're kind of butting heads a little bit on.
There's a difference between fighting and banter, though.
And again, like I said, I just think that they tend to butt heads a lot. And then when something this tragic happens, where you feel like essentially your son dies and he becomes this evil galactic empire wannabe guy, they're gonna have this moment where they have to decide whether or not they can handle it, and apparently they couldn't, and Han went back to the way he was, and I think the tragedy of losing his son justifies at least that much.
Normally I would agree with your assessment on this if it weren't for the fact that I know that J.J. Abrams just wanted the old Han Solo back, and so he just shoehorned him into the movie and then retroactively tried to explain why he was there.
I don't think it wasn't retroactive. They explained it in the first movie.
Yeah, so
JJ had an idea. He's like, yeah, I want the old Han Solo back. Okay, so what can happen? What could possibly happen that we would see Han Solo be a scoundrel again?
But if you look at where we left off with Han last time we saw him, he was a hero of the rebellion. He was a general. He had achieved some respectability. He got the girl. He had changed. He had evolved from that scoundrel that he was in Episode 4. And it would have been nice to have seen more character progression as opposed to character regression, all for the sake of nostalgia, which was entirely JJ's intent.
Well, not even that, but apparently he was a crook too, like a scumbag, like ripping people. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like
that sounds like old Han Solo.
I don't know about you, man, but I don't want to revert back to the asshole I was in my 20s, being in my 40s now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, that's fair.
Just from the more I listen to him talk about it, the more like I'm being seduced by the dark side here. I don't know.
I'm looking at it just at the point of as this couple, Han and Leia, dealing with the tragedy, and they just have to part ways.
So, not to get too personal, but
because they can't handle it.
I've been married and divorced twice. You know, I've had one of those was kind of, you know, a Han Leia love story. You know, sometimes shit just doesn't work out. And like, I didn't have nothing as bad as like my kid becoming like Darth Vader light ever happened.
Yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
it's not like they don't love each other. I mean, they see each other again at the end of the movie, and they're like, "Hey, we miss each other. It's too bad."
I mean, I still
Shit
kind of
happened."
love my
I have a-
ex-wives.
I have a
You know what I
hard
mean? We
time-
got kids. You know?
I have a hard time relating to this Han Solo because, you know, I have a child who has fallen to the dark side in a way, and I've never felt that way. In fact, if anything, it's made my wife and I
closer.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
No,
the other way you
that's-
can go.
that
I mean,
is,
there's
yeah.
two different types of people,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to hear that you're that type of person. But it also exists
Yeah.
the other side.
See, I would chalk this up to just bad writing as opposed to
writing.
anything else.
There you go.
We've got to
it was-
make a.
it was
Tell
J-
me you have a shirt that says just bad writing.
I'd chalk this up to
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
It was just JJ being
going through
lazy.
now.
Yeah,
It's
Jesus.
JJ being lazy because he wanted the old Han Solo for nostalgia's sake in his movie. And he's friends with Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford was like, I don't want to be in more Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Let me just play this part, get my paycheck, and leave. And JJ was like, okay. And he didn't think about the fans. He didn't think about the legacy. He didn't think about the character. That's my biggest problem with this.
Okay. I mean, I can't say that's not a valid way of thinking about it. I just, for me personally, I see it as it's described in the movie is that this couple went through a tragedy and they split
See,
up.
I
afterwards.
think you have Stockholm syndrome.
I can,
It's one of those things where you want this movie to make sense and be good, and so you make excuses for all the bad stuff that they did.
Okay.
Well,
if that's how you want to see it.
well, not every. Okay, no, well, you know, people make all kinds of different decisions. What you or I might think is right or wrong, somebody else might, you know, like might
There
think.
is a such thing as
you know.
objectively wrong in screenwriting, though.
No,
And
for sure.
storytelling.
But I'm just saying that like. Just because it's not what we wish would have happened with the character doesn't mean it like doesn't necessarily to a certain point of view make sense. I'm not saying it makes. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I'm actually agreeing with you, man. I'm just saying that I see both sides.
Would
you know?
I have been happier if it ended up the way he wanted it to end up, where everybody's kumbaya and happy together and the relationship still exists? Sure.
I didn't say that.
What did you want? What'd you?
I wanted it to
This
be
is-
respectful to the character. I wanted to see a character progression based off of where we last saw the character.
Right, not the regression that he became.
Exactly.
You know, like the example I gave of me being
Like
a
you
20-year-old
could
me.
still
Yeah.
have you could still have like tragic elements. You could still have regressive elements, but to completely reset the character after 30 years of not seeing him.
And even Leia hadn't changed. Leia was the same character that she was when we left the original movie.
I'm sorry. Did you mean
Leia.
Leia?
Leia.
Leia.
Thank you.
Leia.
Not Leah. My
Whatever.
mother-in-law's name is
Leia.
Leah.
I'm sorry.
Please don't confuse me.
It's just the whiskey.
It is the whiskey,
All right.
isn't it?
Moving
Jesus,
on.
maybe I
moving
should
on
try
from this
some of that
issue,
whiskey.
I have one more issue with this movie that
Okay,
I want to touch
go
on.
ahead.
Okay, so after Han dies, Rey and Chewbacca return to the Resistance base, and Leia walks past Chewbacca and embraces Rey, a girl she has never seen before in her life,
Yes.
because she was sad that Han Solo died.
Yes.
Give
And
me
it's-
a break.
And it's like,
Yeah.
if you ever wanted any evidence that J.J. Abrams didn't know anything about Star Wars or respect the original characters, it's that scene.
Okay.
Because basically, to have Leia not go to Chewie after finding out that Han Solo had died and comfort him,
Right.
and choosing
Exactly.
to go to
Absolutely.
this character that she had never met before,
Yeah.
nor did she know what her relationship with Han Solo was, and hug her and hold her and tell her everything's going to be okay. That is one of the biggest sins of this new trilogy, is that they completely disrespected the relationship that Leia and Chewie had. But more than that, like the relationship that Han and Luke had is never like given any closure.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, but
yeah.
that one scene was
can't-
the most insulting scene. in the entire
100%
trilogy.
agree with you there. 100. I can't. Yeah.
I cannot argue with you
Yeah.
at all. The only thing that I can say, and it's not even necessarily in defense or anything, it's just that when this was brought up to JJ, he full up admitted, yeah, that was a mistake. I should have done it differently. So at least he took ownership of that mistake.
I do remember him saying that.
Okay. Well, if that
That's the only thing I can say about that,
But
because you are 100% correct.
If you actually cared about your craft and took some time to think about your story, you wouldn't have made that mistake in the first place.
I'm honestly, like I was telling him while you guys were taking
and
your
that's
break,
part of the biggest problem with this series is that it was not well thought through. It was not well written.
JJ was scared.
I don't care.
What difference does that make?
He's a professional
I'm
fucking
just saying.
storyteller.
I'm just saying.
He's a professional story. He's been directing stuff since, for decades.
I agree with you. I'm just saying he was scared to do Star Wars.
And he shouldn't have done it.
Right.
Exactly.
He shouldn't have done it.
Exactly. he was afraid, and that's why he made all these mistakes, because he was trying to play it safe. He was trying to play it easy.
Well, then how do you explain the Star Trek movies and the third Disney trilogy movie? Like, was he scared during all those movies?
I don't know about Star Trek.
Because he made tons of mistakes.
Star Trek. He wasn't a fan of Star Trek.
He wasn't a fan of Star Trek.
It doesn't matter.
And while those movies aren't Star Trek,
Irving
I like
Kershner
those
wasn't
movies.
a fan of Star Wars. He made the best Star Wars movie there was.
Who?
Irving Kershner.
Oh.
The director of Empire Strikes Back. Like the guy who did Wrath of Khan. He wasn't a fan of Star Trek. He made the best Star Trek movie.
He did. No, exactly.
You don't have to be a fan in order to make a good movie.
No, I'm not saying you do.
Tony Gilroy wasn't a Star Wars fan. He made Rogue
Yeah,
One.
but what's his name? That Logan guy that made that Abomination Nemesis. He wasn't a Star Trek fan, and they hired him.
No, I agree with you. You don't have to be a fan of something to make a good movie.
I don't buy the fact that JJ was scared, so he made mistakes.
What? Nemesis was a good movie?
I like Star Trek Nemesis.
Dude, we're doing Star Trek.
Whoa, what?
You guys don't like Nemesis?
I thought you were talking about Gladiator, because the writer of Gladiator was hired to write Nemesis, which is an abortion of a terrible Star Trek
You don't
movie.
like that movie?
No one likes that movie, Alex.
My head
that
just
movie.
fucking exploded. Jesus Christ.
Back to Star Wars. That's a whole other topic.
How much whiskey have you had?
Yeah, we're going to come back to that one. We're coming back to that
This
one.
just in, Nemesis is a good movie, everybody. Fuck you.
I'm leaving that one in. Okay. We're going to have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
I was under the impression people like that movie.
No.
I like it. I thought it was cool.
I'm pretty sure Tom Hardy admitted that he wanted to kill himself over that movie.
Really?
I'm not kidding. Google that. I'm pretty sure that was a thing.
Oh, man.
Dude, people are going to be mad. You're talking about Star Trek, the Star Wars podcast.
This is going to be our best podcast ever. All right, let's move on to the infamous Last Jedi before we get too far into the
Dun,
weeds.
dun, dun.
Okay, so this movie,
Matt Vader's favorite movie.
this movie has
Better get that edit button ready,
got
buddy.
to be. I might not edit this. I might not.
Just put an explicit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just put a
Explicit
warning. Mom, don't listen to this podcast.